Close Racing Supply in Eldred, Pennsylvania has been in business since 1996, serving the motorsports industry with quality parts for dirt late models, modifieds, and stock clip race cars. In stock are parts from top manufacturers like All-Star Performance, Weir's Machine, Sweet Manufacturing, Winner's Performance, Willwood Brakes, and many others. CRS is also home of CRS Race Components, providing top-quality suspension parts. Orders are shipped out daily using UPS, FedEx, and truck freight. Find out more at closeracingsupply.com.
Welcome everybody back to another episode of the Woah Show. And that's actually season 2, new year, new me, new season. Hopefully we get to do this a little bit more this season. Took a week off for the holidays and to recover from some racing stuff before we get back at it. And we have a guest here today that if you are in the State Line Erie's area, know very well. It's the fastest Darrell since Waltrip, which is my favorite thing when we watch Flow and you're out there racing. Darrell Bossard, what's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. I mean, I was named after Darrell Waltrip, so I guess I kind of got to be.
So, you've been around the sport, not I wouldn't say like a long time. Some of these guys that are out there probably were racing when you were a kid still, but when did you first start?
I started actually driving in 2000. So I've got a few years under my belt. Pretty lucky. I got to race with a lot of my heroes that I watched when I was growing up. Now, unfortunately, I get to see some of their kids race as well.
Well, it's always you talk to a guy maybe like one of the Davies or something like that, and that always comes up. Or I mean, Al Brewer's probably been racing since they were racing horse and buggy. He's been around for 50 plus years or something like that. So it's probably when you start seeing the juniors out there, and you're like, oh no. So
yeah, I don't. I'm trying to think of the junior portion, like Dave Hess Jr. I never raced with his dad. I did race with Robbie and Max. I don't think there's any other really father's sons that I raced with. Now you say the junior thing, I'm gonna have to think about that one. I really don't. I know a lot of their dads, but I guess they're actually raced with the father son. It probably Rob and Max are the only one I can think of right now.
So when you first got started, what class did you start in?
I started in what they called the pro stocks and the outlaw stocks at Sportsman Speedway. Street stocks, they were nothing like what these pro stocks are today. When I turned 16, I got into the stock car stuff and haven't stopped since.
What kind of transition was it like? Because I am sure, maybe today, and maybe the majority of people watching this podcast might just be familiar with the State Line area rules, and maybe even farther out, but I'm sure back in the 2000s, there was more differences than there is today between, like the pro stocks and the late models almost look like the same, damn car almost. Not to discourage against them, right? But what kind of differences did you see between the stock car and going to the late model?
I mean, honestly, like the stock cars I raced back then, one of the reasons I'm so kind of excited for this Rush stock car deal, they remind me of my stock cars. Like I had a Monte Carlo body. We had the metric chassis. We had stock parts all through it. They were way more stock back then. Now we didn't have crate engines and stuff, but some of the stuff today, the pro stocks and the Penn Ohio stuff, it's way more high tech than what we had back then. And I'm not going to knock it. They put on some good races and they have a lot of fun. But the transition back then, we knew, like, I won races in the stock car and I won championships in the stock car. And we knew going in, like, obviously Robbie was a mentor to me, and my dad raced for years, and my uncle was in racing for years. We all knew. We said it's 5 years. It's 5 years of struggle before we even think about winning a race. So we actually won my first late model race the the second year I raced, and it was pretty exciting back then. Like we didn't think it could be done that quick because I remember the first ever late model race was at Hidden Valley, and we rolled out for hot laps. And of course, that's back when late models pulled the left front 3 foot off the ground. And, it was way different than what it is now. And everybody just pounded in my head, just follow the 111 car. Well, I did down the front stretch under yellow, but when they dropped the green, I never saw them again. There was no following that. I had no clue what I was doing. So we raced probably like a half of a year at Hidden Valley that first year, just trying to get my feet wet with it because it was completely different. The steering was 10 times faster. We didn't have steering quickeners in my stock car.
And through your progression, so what all have you actually raced with here since starting with the stock car days?
I actually ran stock cars for 3 full years. Maybe I'd say 4 full years. And then the whole game plan was beings with our ties with Max and Robbie and my uncle owning Robbie's cars and stuff. We were going to do that steel block late model class at Raceway 7. And of course, as we were getting ready to put that together, Ron dropped that class. So we went straight to the super lates from the basically street stocks, or what a lot of the classes are pro stocks down there, or hobby stocks today, basically. But yeah, we made the big jump right from them to the late models. I did drive an E-mod for a year for another guy out of Cochrane, just a little bit of fun here and there now and then at Tri-City and Raceway 7. And we made a trip to like Challengers Fall Fest and just some fun stuff here and there.
See, Darrell knows where the fun is with the E-mod deals, even though everybody gets on my case about them from time to time.
Yeah, see, the fun's changed. Now I think it's a fishing boat out in the lake somewhere.
Hey, so what really caused you to get into racing there in 2000? What was kind of like the inspiration behind, hey, I really want to try this, and made the decision to really pursue it?
I mean, when I was a kid, my dad raced State Line, Erie's, Tri-City for years before I was ever thought of. And he quit when I was born, so I never got to watch him race. But when I was just younger, my uncle and him pretty much helped get Robbie Blair up through the ranks, from what they were cadets at State Line and Erie's and to the limited lates into the late model. So I was around it forever. And I remember going to Erie's and watching, and Sportsman Speedway and watching. We were always at Raceway 7. And then when my uncle owned the dealership in Titusville, he hired Bobby Powell to work there. Well, they built him a stock car, and I was probably 13 years old. It was just pretty much me and Bobby, and the two of us traveling all over the place trying to race stock cars, and we had a lot of fun. And he taught me a lot about working on race cars and the proper way to do stuff, and won a lot of races in the stock cars. But just the couple years of just traveling around helping him made it for sure when I turned 16, because back then you had to be 16 to race. Horsepower was completely different. They drove different. The guys raced different. Not to say it was discouraging to go out there and get waxed every night, because it was a lot of fun. But as a kid, I was 16 when I started, so you're 18, 19 years old, and you think you're Superman. But man, them guys are really, really good. And they don't care what you think. They show you that they're really, really good.
So I'm going to piggyback off of that and talk about, so now you've been running late models for, you've probably seen a lot of changes. What kind of changes have you seen, in late models that, through your time, that either you've either liked or didn't like, or how different are the cars from even when you started till now? Because I talk a lot about uh, with a lot of, and I'd hate to say the old timers, but the legends in the sport, whether it's on the media side or not, and I feel like they always talk about how I miss the good old days, and man, some of them cars look so good back, even in the early 2000s.
It was different. I mean, and the weird part is like minus the body rules and stuff. If somebody didn't really know, they just looked underneath these race cars at a bare chassis. It still doesn't look much different than it did back then. Like it's still the same amount of shocks and the same 4 bars and everything else. It's just the technology that's built into them that has really changed. And that's the big thing. Like, there's no reason that we go as fast as we do. Like, I'm telling you, you look underneath this new race car, and yep, it's a 4-bore car, and I still ran the same motor for till a couple years ago. It was 15 years old. It didn't change my motor any. But we'd go 2 seconds a lap faster just because they designed the valving and the shocks better. Tires get better, shocks get better. And now the problem, the problem is that I wish we could get back to the old ways. Is it's aero dependency. You start and you hear it all through the NASCAR days and everything else, but well, when you can get aero tight in a late model at State Line and Erie's, it's kind of weird to think about, but that's the biggest difference. Is the technology has got us planted in the track so hard that you depend on air to help you. It also makes your race different.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's also encouraged a more aggressive, you never know when you're going to get that next opportunity to get in there. And, maybe people are putting noses where they might not want to be. But I've also noticed, studying through and talking to some people who've been around the sport, it feels like this happens like, so it goes aero dependent and then it goes mechanical dependent. Like it just goes back and forth. Like, back when some of my friends' dads started racing, they're like, what the hell is aerodynamics, as Kenny Wallace said in one of his, couple of days ago,
Well,
and now
somebody
everybody's
will
really
find something.
focused.
Somebody will find something that works, and makes more mechanical grip than the air does. Well, that's going to win for a while, and then somebody's going to come out and move their nose 6 inches one way or the other, and all of a sudden that makes more grip. So we're all just gravitate to whatever makes the most grip. The way I describe it to some people, like a lot of the people I work with, don't know a thing about dirt track racing or have never even been around it, and the ones that do kind of follow up through, I said, man, when I started racing at State Line, the track didn't change. The size of the track didn't change, and I don't really know the times, but like if 5 years ago we ran a 17-second lap in a heavy, fast racetrack, now we run a 17-second lap in the dead slippery. Because I've always said, like, back then you could race and you could pass cars a little easier, and you can still pass it. You just have to work at it, and it takes time. But back in the day when your left front was 3 foot off the ground, there was no arrow. It didn't matter. The bottom of the car caught all the air, and Franny had tires buried in the infield. Well, you just get her lifted up a little farther, and you can race farther to the infield than them guys because your left front was over top of them. That was kind of the name of the game.
Back when late models carried in the left front, some of those pictures I've seen, it looks so cool. I know that, from a racing perspective, and 4 tires on the ground are faster, and all the guys that talk about a lot of my friends that make fun of me for my fascination with E-mod racing, and they're all carrying the left front, and planning that left front now is the fast way around, especially with the arrow. But man, it looks so much cooler.
Oh,
Can we get back
if
to when we
you
looked all
you
super
watch
cool?
the Lucas Oil and the World Outlaws, them boys are getting the left fronts up in the air again. I mean, you can see it's coming. Stuff's changing. Um, obviously the tire rule uh, has it to where the tires out there aren't as good as they once were. Well, if they're losing grip, they're building it somewhere with the mechanical side of it, and you see the left front up in the air again. But I do remember like the first time that ever happened. I think it was at Lernerville for me, because we ran Hidden Valley, and I ran like one race at Raceway 7 and one at Tri City or something, and we were still just learning. So the next year we decided we're going to Lernerville, and we parked next to Ron Davies. And my dad raced with Ron, and he pretty much just told me, whatever you do, don't lift. Well, yeah, I don't know about that. Like, I lifted, and Ron went by me like I was standing still. Well, about 3 laps in the hot laps, I came in, and he goes, well, what do you think? I said, I can't see a thing. I said, all I see is my left front fender, and I don't like it. Like, I want to see where I'm going. He's like, no, no, you don't. He goes, that's the way you race it. He goes, you just hope there's nobody under you. Perfect. I guess that's the way we're going to do this. I never had had it happen, but I have heard stories where back in the day they were so high in the air you could actually set your left front on the guy underneath you's deck.
Well, we're surely farther away from that than now. But hey, so you talk a lot about you traveled around a lot and you hit a lot of tracks that might have not actually gotten mentioned on the podcast before, saying Hidden Valley and stuff. Um, Tell me a little bit about which ones were your favorite. You don't have to say which ones aren't your favorite, but and maybe what you've kind of learned through your years, because a lot of people nowadays and think Darrell Bossard, State Line Erie's guy, or whatever it is, and a lot of guys are staying closer to home. A lot of people aren't traveling due to whatever reasons. A lot of guys are just local racers, but going to all these different tracks, what were some of your favorites, and what did they teach you?
I mean, like I said, I started the street stocks and stuff. We ran all over the place. Like, and we won a lot of places. But when we got into the late models, the way the cars were and everything else, Hidden Valley was the first track I raced on, and it is a little tight bull ring. And what it that one taught me was, how sideways you can feel in a late model, but you're not really that sideways. But you kind of had to down there because you had to bend the car, and also these cars are bigger, they're wider. It got you really, really in tune with how much room they took up. Um, then we moved and went to like Raceway 7, and it was wow. If I jump back in my street stock, I can eat a cheeseburger down the front stretch. Um, the speed aspect. So that's what we did one year. We raced Hidden Valley or Raceway 7 Fridays, Hidden Valley Saturdays, and I think it ended up teaching me a lot of the difference of you've got the way you drive a short track versus a big track. Then we ventured Tri City, which is 15 minutes from home, and I'm thinking, it's not a big deal. Raceway 7 is still a pretty big racetrack. Well, Tri City is still fast, like it's big and fast. Um, but then, like those are the kind of the progressions I went. Hidden Valley, Raceway 7, Tri City. Then we started to hit Lernerville some, and I'd never raced a late model on red clay, and it felt that type of traction that a red clay will give you. Of how tight a race car can get and how fast red clay can get slippery in a hurry. We ran Sharon when they made it small, but again, the street stocks just, there was never that much grip in them cars. So it was such a jump that when I started going track to track to track in the late model, it really kind of, I'm not going to say it helped me because I still don't claim to be that great of a race car driver, but it did teach me what my driving style that I wanted to be or wanted to have was. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a bottom feeder. I like to race around the bottom. you watch old street stock races. I won a lot of races running around the top in the street stock, and I'll do it in a late model on occasion. Just the way that to get me comfortable in the car in the late models, no matter where we went, I always felt way more comfortable on the bottom, and that's just kind of transitioned through. And I mean, I'd like to say we've been pretty successful over the years, and but definitely the early years of traveling made a difference. Um, I encourage anybody to do it. Travel out more, race more, hit different racetracks. It does nothing but help you.
I definitely would say there's a lot of unique racetracks, and there's a lot of racetracks in our area. Um, we are blessed with how many racetracks we have. I know friends that live. I have a lot of racing friends, a lot of iRacing friends that not only just locally, but I'm like, oh yeah, we have. Look at how many tracks we have in a 2-hour radius from here. I mean,
Oh,
imagine living in
it's great.
Clearfield.
Yeah, right. Well, they're all within 15 minutes. Um, yeah, I mean, I actually did this the other day. I was trying to figure out like where all I've raced and stuff, and you know, I've raced. It's a big list, and I keep like every now and then I add one. Like you just go down that way. Those are the first 4 tracks I mentioned. That's where I raced. But then, like when we got a new car, I was out at Skyline Speedway in Ohio, and I would love to go back there someday because it gets dry, slick, black, shiny like ice, and that's right up what I want to race on. I ran Atomic back when it was KC Speedway. I had no clue what I was doing on something high banked fast like that. Um, then we come back and you race Thunder Mountain, and I've ran Dog Hollow, Marion Center. Um, Actually, Marion Center last year was the first time I ever raced there. Been there a couple times, but that was everything. Even after all the years I've raced, I hit Marion Center and I looked at it and I've seen it, I've watched it. You still learn something every time you hit a new racetrack. I've been on bigger tracks, smaller tracks, but I learned some stuff racing there last year in that Outlaw show that I actually used all last summer. In the car just by racing a track that I'd never really been on.
I always say that Marion Center reminds me of State Line in the way how the surface gets slick, and however it's small like a Bradford or a Knox or a Hidden Valley, but not really because there's still room above the cars. It's such a cool place.
It races really fast, actually. Like I said, I was really surprised when we got out there in hot laps how you really have to charge the corner and drive it way harder than what you seem like to watch videos. I mean, obviously, with YouTube and the race chasers and everything that you can watch any platform of racing on now, you get to watch some of this stuff. So I did. I looked it up and like, man, it doesn't look like it races that hard. Well, yeah, you get out there and it races hard. Hummingbird's another one. Like you really have to drive hard at Hummingbird. It's not a big track, but we love going down there. Have a lot of fun there. And it's a different surface altogether. One thing I've noticed is you get down into that Clearfield area, the people seem to be different down there. I don't know, I just remember like everybody, and I hope people don't take this the wrong way, but State Line and Erie's the competition, and there's a lot of really really good race cars here, and honestly, for years the fun level kind of dropped. Like you got to be serious. It's like a job, and it just seems, and it's more than likely because you don't go there with the expectations. You go down there to have fun. But now and then, when you go down there and race those racetracks, everyone treats you really nice, and you're the new guy, but it doesn't seem to matter. They still want to, they introduce themselves. They thank you for coming. And you go out and race and have a lot of fun. And, over the last few years, that's what we've really been trying to do. We just want to have fun. Like this gig turned into a job, and we want to try to have fun again.
I will say, to talk about and I always love going down to that area. It's an area that I was very familiar with before I started doing State Line full time. And they really do treat you like family down there. And they have all around all the drivers. I can't even name all, but like just the connections I made down there. Um, we always did that one. It felt like once a year, State Line would come down and invade Hummingbird because there's a lot of classes that overlap down there, and it was so cool, and it was so cool to see our guys, work against some different competition and feel other people out, and those guys are always so super grateful and excited that
Right.
people want to try us on a Saturday night.
Yep. And that's it. I think it's a good thing when you get a chance to do that. Um, like we went to Dog Hollow a few years ago, and I was horrible. I wasn't any good whatsoever. But it doesn't mean we didn't have fun down there. In Marion Center last year, we struggled mightily in this World Outlaw show, and I mean, we may have figured out that there was an engine issue because it exploded the next night, um, but like I said, everyone still thanks you for coming and wants you to come, and Hummingbird's the same way. Louis treated me really well years ago. We went down there for a special race, and I made the race when it rained. Well, I had some motor issues after that, and just I can't go back. I can't go back for the makeup show. I didn't think nothing of it, but like 2 weeks after the makeup show, I get my tow money and a thank you letter and everything else from him in the mail. You just don't see that. Like he didn't have to send me a dime, and it wasn't even the money. It was still a thank you for coming to support us. So we always try to get down there once, twice a year, um, and support them as well, as much as we can. I mean, I'm a nobody. I don't bring 200 fans or whatever else, but I do what I can. I try to support and promote any racetrack as much as I can. You
I
said
will
Bradford. I
say,
have raced Bradford.
the last time we all went down to Hummingbird for our State Line invasion, as I called it, I felt like there was at least 15 to 20 of us down there, and you put a show on with the locals. Don't say that you didn't. And I think that was 2 weeks before they closed up for the season early
Yeah.
in July. But let me tell you, I was over there and I was kind of like bragging to the other media people and stuff. I'm like, hey, look at them State Line guys go. And obviously, it didn't turn out the way you hoped there at the end. But man, that was probably one of the better races I saw all year. And
It
it
was. It
was
was a lot
cool.
of fun. Um, Kenny and me. Kenny ended up with the win, and we talked afterwards. Because I really didn't know what happened at first. I didn't realize the lap car had spun out, but uh, it was fun. Nobody made that outside work all night long, and he just rolled right by me like I was standing still. I'm like, man, I really better get back up on the wheel here. But it was fun, and even though when that whole last lap incident happened, I got right fronts ripped off, and the power steering lines exploded, and spindles pointed in the wrong direction. It didn't matter. You come home, you fix it, you race the next night, and and I think Erie's rained out the next night, maybe even, and but we won the next week out at State Line, so like it all works. It comes full circle, and hopefully them guys, they all say like with Tri City racing this year, some of them are going to come up here and race, and which is good. Like I hope them guys can come up here and race some, and uh, it's exciting to let them come up and see what we do every week, and what we deal with every week. you know, and like I said, it just makes it just builds that whole racing family. Like any one of them guys comes up here and they want to race Tri City Friday and stay and go, to State Line Saturday. If they have an issue, any one of them's welcome to use my garage the next day or whatever. Like we'll help them get out there and go, and that's the way we always are. And 99% of them down there would be the same way, and which makes it a lot of fun. I don't have a rolling garage with me, so if we're gonna stay somewhere and go, you kind of got to rely on your buddies now and then.
So, going back to you said you had a lot of mentors, getting up through this thing. And what is the best piece of advice in racing you've ever gotten that you'd want to share with people?
Sell everything. I mean, I didn't say I took my own advice or anybody's advice, but that's probably it. I mean, it's not smart, but it is a lot of fun. No, man, I've had a lot of good advice over the years, and it depends on which way you want to look at it. From the aspect of that we prepare our race cars, that I was pounded into me between my dad and my uncle and Robbie and Bobby Powell, the preparation and the work. My car's not leaving the garage unless it's perfect. And that's what we do. It's a full time job around here that we work and then we come home and we work some more. That's it may not be advice, but it's definitely something. And then when you get onto the racing side of things, Dick Barton helped me a ton over the years. Especially when I first transitioned to the late models. Like after the first year, my crew chief got killed in an accident, and Dick helped me quite a bit. And I know some people know that. Richie Gardner, he was always a ton of help, and still a good friend of mine. Those two are the ones that I leaned on probably the most. Obviously, Max and Robbie. Robbie was, the one I always looked up to, but Chub Frank and Boom helped me over the years. Just try to get more comfortable in a race car and get a setup that I liked. And it's it's hard to say what the best piece of advice is because everybody's advice has helped in some way or shape or form. And you know, from personal life to racetracks to work to everything, there's a racing story or a racing somebody that has put a hand in it the whole way up through this for me.
Oh, before we get to our ending segment here, make sure you shout out all your sponsors, everybody that makes this thing happen.
Well, let's see. In the last 5 years or so, I got to thank Mike and Missy Bambarger. They've been huge help over the last, few years, and they've had their own trials and tribulations and health issues, and they're getting that squared away. And, that's all that really matters. We want to see them around for a long time. So between them, Trianville Salvage and Moody Welding have been huge helps of mine over the years. Endless Summer Hair Salon in Titusville. I think they've been on my car for 20 some years. Titusville Motor Company the same way. My buddy Davy's restaurant, The Hills. Man, the last few years when I raced the crate car, we got hooked up with the Titusville Moose Club and the Titusville American Legion, the VFW, and the Titusville Elks Club. And that's why the whole left side of my car is the Titusville side. It's all the clubs, and it's really cool, and it really means a lot to me to represent that whole, the whole charities and everything that they do and that they represent. I've got all the other sponsors that have helped me along the way, like Bish Heating and AC came on again. E&K Equipment's helped me on and off for years. Man, I had a new one last year. It's Conway Marine. He's been a buddy of ours forever. He's from St. Petersburg, Florida. So if anybody needs anything, yacht, boat, marina area, St. Petersburg, go see Tim Conway. And the sponsorships and the friendships mean a ton. Mark's Auto Body up the road here, he's always around if I need a hand or whatever. And hopefully we got a possibility of having some new sponsors this year. I can't announce it all just yet, but we're hoping to have a few more names on there than what we had in the past few years, and I'm really hoping to. So that'll work out good if they do. But other than that, anybody that's been along the way and helped this deal, you can't thank them enough. Whether it's been loaning you $5 to get in some night to buying you a tire or what it is, literally everybody has gotten us this far, and we can't do any of it without any of them.
Good. It takes a a lot of folks, and I say this on the other side of the gate, the people that don't come through the back gate or don't know how many people it takes to put one race car on the track. It is absolutely insane. I didn't appreciate it as a fan until I got into this side of things, and it's actually amazing that we have so many people supporting so many other people. If that makes sense,
Oh, it is.
it's
Like,
awesome.
I mean, it's being in the sport this long. Like, and if I owned my own business, there's no doubt I wouldn't want to try to support this because I see the amount of eyes and the amount of people that see it. And dirt racing's fans are very, very loyal. I mean, I still do it. There's no reason why I'm buying Lucas Slick Mist to spray my car off, other than the fact that McGuire's doesn't sponsor a late model tour. So I'm plain and simple. You know, and you see that a lot, and I still think it happens around here on a local level. You know, I had one lady come up to me at autograph night one night, and she says, "You're from Titusville." I said, "Yes, I am." And she goes, "I'm writing that number of the salon down." She goes, "Because I go through there all the time." And well, there's no phone number on the side of it, but I can give it to you. John Flinner told me years ago not to put phone numbers on my sponsors, so I don't.
So as we wrap up, having to thank all those sponsors. We're doing this new thing. Hopefully it sticks. The fast 5 questions at the end, some just quick kind of gut instinct questions. Even though I've been asking you questions all day, this is more of like the quicker final couple questions here. And number 1, who is your favorite race car driver?
All time or now?
All time.
All time, Rob Blair.
All time. What's your favorite racetrack?
State line.
Ah, he's sucking up. I'm just kidding. It's my favorite one too. There's nothing like home. What is, and this is gonna be a little longer one. What's your? It doesn't have to be your all time favorite because I'm sure you have enough to call it your all time favorite when the mood is right. What's your all time favorite racing moment?
Favorite racing moment? Probably the first late model win was a really big one. Um, because it happened right after my crew chief had died, like the next year. He never got to see me win. That was a really, really big one. Um, and a lot of people from back in the history know that. Like you probably have no idea who I'm talking about because it's been that long. That was a really big one. And then, honestly, believe it or not, the first late model win at Erie's a couple years ago was probably the next one because I've raced here so long and it took so long to get the first late model win there.
What made you a fan of racing? What do you remember, like the first thing that you're like, this is the thing I'm gonna love for the rest of my life, or also hate? Because I know it goes both ways, and when you're definitely in the driver's seat.
Probably I was probably 7 or 8 years old in that range. My dad used to take me down to Rob Blair's garage. And the coolest thing I ever thought, and I've never had this done, but Dana Blair used to hand letter Rob Blair's cadets and everything. And that was probably one of the coolest things I ever saw was this guy standing there making them cars look as good as they did. And he did it all by hand paint. And I can remember the guy's name and everything. And he did an awesome job with it. And then just seeing the race cars from what in that garage and then being the one to go out and watch it on the racetrack. I mean, it didn't hurt that Rob won all the time when you're a kid, you want to see wins, but that was probably it. Like, I will never forget that hand painting the race car because it wasn't like putting a wrap on. It wasn't a 2-minute process. You were there for hours to see with this unveiling of a race car.
It is definitely a lost art, and I know Cody Rickards with his Rush stock car did get it hand painted, and man, did that look pretty slick.
Yes,
so
that one and Alyssa Rowe always had her modified done hand painted too. I still know which one like that. Those are the two that I can pick out. But yeah, that's something that always interested me. I can't draw a stick figure, so I ain't doing it.
And the last one here. So, in your racing career, what's one thing you would want to bring back to racing that doesn't exist anymore?
Fun.
Oh man.
I'm telling you, like I've seen the transitions like we talked about, and it's serious, and the fun aspect of it is gone. When I ran stock cars, every night after the races, there was a group of us hanging out, and a lot of it attributes to getting out of the track so late sometimes now, but there was always a group of hanging out and having fun. And now, like, man, you finish fifth or sixth and you're disappointed and you want to go home. And nah, it didn't matter back in the day. It didn't matter if you finished first or 15th. You were still having fun. And a lot of times when you watch the Facebook drama and all the yelling and screaming and the fighting and everything else, it's like, man, this is still a hobby to all of us. None of us are making a living off of this. Does it suck? But yeah, it does. But there's probably no reason to get all riled up. And I mean, if anybody knows, it takes an awful lot to get me riled up. But the more fun we have, the better we do. And anybody that hangs out around us, we try to have fun.
It is well, sometimes it's fun, sometimes you're like, I want to quit, but that's every race car driver from time to time. I know there's a lot of guys that I've sponsored through the years that we have a bad night at the racetrack when I go to cover them or try, we go out of our way to take care of them for the media wise. And they're like, yeah, so let's put this thing on Facebook Marketplace and call it a career. Some days are just like that.
It is. It's bad. We all want to quit sometimes. But yeah, the fun level has dropped, and a lot of it probably expense and everything else. And but I enjoy helping younger drivers now and trying to help out and with that Rush Stock Car Series coming up and stuff. And there's a lot to be excited for in this area, and that brings back some of the excitement and the fun. And all I can hope is if I ever get a new car in the garage, maybe we'll make it out and see what happens. But as of right now, I don't have a car. So
to piggyback on that, and maybe this is, we were trying to wrap it up, but this is what happens when I start to get thinking here is, maybe the transition through how competitive and how fast cars are and how, I'm not saying how good everybody has gotten, but man, I mean, not to say, whatever on the late model side, but if you look at even the modified side, and me and a couple people talk about this, man, a top 15 in the UMP modified division in our area is, it's frustrating to break through. And I wonder if, I'm not saying as a competitive sense, what it has gotten to, but maybe that's something to explore in a different podcast episode, is to really be like, where did this culture shift where racing used to be, not say used to be fun, it's still fun,
it's
it's still awesome, it's still the greatest thing on earth, but how we view it, whether it be the drivers and the teams, about maybe looking more maybe as a business aspect, or as you said, a full-time job where it really is a full-time job to be up front in these divisions. I mean, you're going against guys that, I mean, a late model field at State Line, I always say, when the World of Outlaw guys are in town, a lot of guys from around here are up near the front and making the show too, so there are no slouches around here.
No, there's not. And the cost to do it is so much higher, and there's so much more competition. It's not that it's not fun, but the stress level is up, and it makes you work harder, and it makes you take time away from literally everything else in your life, and that can put a draw and a drain on a lot of stuff. But finding the balance and everything else, and everybody knows my crew guy Chip and me and my mom. That's about the three that are there every night, and we've just kind of come back to like, listen, if we go somewhere and we finish 15th, we finish 15th. Now state line's a different animal. Like we want to go be the one at state line every night we can. That's our home track. But if we roll into Lernerville, because I have been terrible at Lernerville, I've been good at Lernerville. It is what it is. We're there to have fun, and we know that going into it, and that really seems to make a big difference in the attitude before the races, during the races, and after the races. Is you have to take the business and the stress side out of it, and just I want to have fun.
Well, Darrell, we'll leave it at that, or we'll sit here and talk all night. As our new Woah drivers, you can see our door panel back here. We got it for a raffle for our upcoming bowling tournament kickoff party thingy. I don't even know really what to call it. The title is too dang long in my opinion, but whatever. She always says, it's just a yap fest when I start talking to people. So we'll stop it there. Thank you for joining Darrell Bossard on the Woah Show.
Thank you.